Hello, this is Sonia Hadala, and I'm here to share my thoughts from the content I reviewed in Lesson 3.1, Role of Observation. Maria Montessori began her career as an educator teaching children with mental retardation. Her success was such that she was able to teach many of them to read and write well enough to take tests with children who did not have any mental retardation. While everyone else was observing the success of her students, she was wondering and observing what would keep these healthy children low enough on the testing plane to score alongside her students. Her observations of young children led to her designing developmentally appropriate activities, hands-on materials and activities through which children could learn. She knew that the early years began with the need to discover and fine-tune the sensory motor skills, which she did through cylinders, templates to trace, and puzzles with knobs on them, sandpaper letters and numbers to touch and learn from, as well as fabric swatches for comparison through touch, and smelling jars for the sense of smell. As children got to be 4 or 5 years old, she also knew that they liked to do things for themselves. So she appealed to their interest with practical life activities such as washing and dressing, scrubbing their work tables, and watering their plants. Eventually, they were reading and writing all by the age of 5. The benefits of her method are that she uses developmentally appropriate activities. However, the method is missing dramatic play and experimenting with objects until after 6 years of age. Then she brings it into her upper grade. I think we stopped recording here. Brings it into upper grade materials. Then she brings it into her upper grade materials. During this time period, she had been a physician and was of the understanding that abstract thought did not begin until 6 years of age. Further research since her time period has shown that children were underestimated in their abilities. They can and do develop some abstract thinking in these earlier years. When Maria Montessori observed her students using the sensory materials, she began to notice the intensity and concentration that these young children would work with these materials. So she refined her methods to instruct her teachers not to interrupt this thought process, but to quietly observe the children at work, waiting until they are finished concentrating before giving any further instructions, questions, or comments. Her observations led to her using this concentration on sensory materials to designing interesting and sensory type equipment for teaching reading. A student begins with sandpaper letters that are glued onto little wooden tablets, and these are used in games to teach phonetic sounds. While learning the sound of the letter, the student watches how the directress traces the sandpaper with 2 fingers and listens to the sound. Then he does the same while he repeats the sound. Once the sounds are mastered, the child can move on to a new game of building words with a movable alphabet of wooden or plastic letters. These are kept neatly in alphabet order in a tray with dividers. The student then gets the satisfaction of reading words that he built. Now, I have seen sensory learning in my observations when a first grade teacher was working in a small group. She wrote out the letters of a word with her fingers on the table so that the students could have a visual of how to sound a word out and spell it. I also observed in a VPK classroom that the students were given a sand tray to practice drawing out letters and saying their sounds, which is also found in a Montessori classroom. To sum this up, I would say there is a lot of good lessons we can take from studying the Montessori method, and our future students could benefit from our use of them. Have a good evening, and this is Sonia Hadala signing off with a reflection on the Montessori method.